I don't understand how GAC matchmaking makes making is so bad. It seems like it's getting worse. Well, yeah, obviously it's getting worse on purpose. So this is why GAC matchmaking is purposely bad, right? So the way the game works, or games in general work, is you want the players who spend lots of money to just absolutely schmack and, just eat the coochie of all the players who don't spend, right? And the reason why a lot of people really liked GAC previously is because GAC wasn't really pay to win. Because of the bracket system that they had and should bring back, I will insert. Really, it was skill-based matchmaking. So it didn't matter if you spent money or you didn't spend money, whatever GP you were at. If you were good at the game, you would win. And obviously, that's fine if there are people all throughout the spectrum of GP, right? So the whales up at the end had plenty of other free-to-play players who were also there because, players have been playing for years and years and years. And so there was plenty of people for the whales to beat up on. And eventually, Capital Games made enough bad changes that those longtime players, the great nerfs and the territory war changes and GLs being added, and just along the way, all of those people have been playing forever and ever and ever. They just stopped playing, right? Because there was no longer fun for them, because they're just getting beat up and there was no recourse, and the game got more and more expensive, so they couldn't compete, and they left. And so the people who were spending a ton of money didn't have that resource of poor people to beat up on. So they were beating up on each other, and obviously when you're a game developer, you don't want the rich people to fight each other. I mean, sometimes you do if it can lead them to spending more money to beat each other, but after a certain point, they get bored of playing the same people. It's like one of the top 10 guys, he doesn't do GAC anymore because he plays the same top 10 people over and over and over and over and over again, and he's just bored. So he only does territory wars, and you and I would be like, there's no way that a human being would do territory wars over GAC, but he's getting bored. So Capital Games had a arguably fantastic idea to get rid of skill-based matching, introduce money-based matchmaking, and open the floodgate. So now if you're really good at GAC, you move up, and then, what do you see? There's just a bunch of people who have better jobs than you, and they beat up on you, and you go back down. That's why all the people who are starting for the first ever time, Capital Games doesn't want you to have a good first experience. They want you to hit level 85 super quickly. You get into GAC, someone with a better job than you beats you up. That's why if you're 700k GP, your opponents are 3 million. If you're 2 million, your opponents are 5 million. If you're 4 or 5 million, your opponents are 7 or 8 million. Because they lost those endgame players for the whales to beat up on, and now you and me and all of us here have become the currency. We've become the krill. They get siphoned through the whale's bristles, or whatever whale anatomy terms you want to use. So that's kind of the struggle with the game kind of decreasing in popularity. Is we used to have all of the people who had been playing for years and years and years, or ex-whales or ex-spenders or whatever, kind of to exist as the whale food. But as Capital Games kind of priced those people out and just made the game less fun for them, we in turn had to become the whale food, and that's why they got rid of skill-based matchmaking, introduced money-based matchmaking. Now, I'm more upset about it than you are, because, I mean, how many videos have I done talking about how terrible it was for the health of the game? Now, of course, health of the game for me is how fun the game is, how good the player base is, all the stuff that gamers care about. Now, the health of the game for them is obviously, are they making a shit ton of money, and are there enough people playing to keep the servers open in EA's mind? So for them, this was great for the health of the game, because, it's going to bump up the revenue that the game makes quite substantially, because now it's fun to whale again, because now, instead of having to, worry about players like me and players like you who are knowledgeable, they have multiple accounts, they have a good farming guide, they have put together a good roster, they're efficient, they know what they're doing, they know their counters, they're modding well, their synergies are not, you know what I mean? Instead of having to face those people, now they just get to face some random person who's too small to do anything, right? So that kind of threw back in the fun of whaling again for a lot of these people. So in no uncertain terms, I mean, a genius business decision by Capital Games, which is why, like, even though me more so than anyone else on God's green earth is complaining about this, nothing will ever change, because this is ultimately the best thing for the health of the game from their perspective, right? So, I mean, we can complain about matchmaking, and I can say, like, guys, like, we just got to reintroduce the bracket system. Like, why did I just bring in bounty hunters when I meant to bring in Imperial Troopers? I'm an idiot. Let me back out real quick. What was I saying? But yeah, so, like, we can complain as much as we want. A lot of times I'm going to become the Greek goddess Hippocrates, the goddess of course, hypocrisy here, and kind of shoot myself in the foot and hopefully lose some respect here. But I complain more than anyone about how god-awful the matchmaking system is, right? Like, you guys all know that. We can all accept that I complain more than anyone, right? That being said, I also get a little annoyed with people who complain about certain things, right? Like, I'm just upset that they had, like, a really solid free-to-play friendly model that, you know, I thought was a decently healthy balance of pay-to-win and free-to-play, right? I thought the pay-to-win aspect was there are so many teams in the game, and the new ones come out, and obviously if you have more money, you can have better teams, so you have an advantage for GAC, because even if your opponent is better than you and has an equal roster, when new stuff comes out, like when GLs come out, or when, you know, Star Killer comes out, you can have them early and you have a massive advantage, right? I thought that was a good place for the pay-to-win aspect to be, and then I thought on the free-to-play side, like, if you were a good player, it didn't matter how good your opponent was. Like, if you were the better player and had the better roster at the GP level, you would still win. So I thought it was a good balance of, you know, there is an obvious advantage to people if they spend to get the new, cool, awesome thingy-majiggy. But if you were actually good at the game, you still had the massive advantage of the fact that you were good at the game, and there was nothing that anyone could do about that. So as much as I have complained about that particular part, I mean, there's things that I generally don't complain about, like one of the goddamn Dark Trooper. One of the common complaints that I hear, and I know I don't reply to a lot of YouTube comments anymore because I've been so busy trying to, you know, apply for jobs and stuff like that, and thank God I finally got one. What was I gonna say? But a lot of people are like, oh, CG is the problem. Like, SWGOH just needs to be bought by some other company. Once CG sells, you know what I mean? Like, once I don't know, insert game company that people still like. I don't know if there is any in existence that people still actually have a good reputation. Like, I don't know, like some random studio, AP's Big PP Studios buys SWGOH. Then we'll get the change. That's what we've really been needing, boys. We've really been needing a good old-fashioned change of management. Like, that's obviously not going to happen. And then there's other people who complain like, oh, I hope Lord of the Rings sucks. Because if Lord of the Rings sucks, they'll go back to putting effort into Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. That's also obviously not going to be the case. If Lord of the Rings sucks, they're going to jump ship and it's all over, right? Like, they're not going to come back and be like, oh, we made a mistake, Lord of the Rings. We spent the last 4 years working on this game. I think what we really need to do, is put more effort into Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. Now, they don't put any effort into Star Wars Galaxy. There's no overhead. That's why it's the perfect game. Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes is like the picture-perfect game for mobile games. There's no overhead cost. They barely do anything. Like, all they have to do is create kits. Like, that's why the only people that do anything are the kit developers and the game designer. There's no content being made. There's no events. So they don't have to spend any money. There's, you know, they talk about revamping their spaghetti code and all that stuff, but we all know that didn't really do anything because the game's still super buggy. So at the end of the day, it's all profit, no overhead, no actual expenses. So this is like those annoying real estate bros who are like, oh, bro, I just got a rental property and, you know, it's generating passive income, and passive income's the way to wealth. Like that's all this is, right? Like, we are being AFK farmed in this game, and if Lord of the Rings dies, CG is just going to say, well, we tried our best, we're going to pay out our executives, sell the company, and peace out, brochachos. I'll see you fucking never, right? So, I don't know. I don't know why I'm going on this rant, I'll be honest. I don't know if there was a conclusion that I was trying to reach, or if there was some actual tangible value that I was hoping to extract from staring at a tiny laptop screen while I press buttons. I don't think we've added any value to your life, but subscribe if you feel like clicking a button, I guess.